Got that sunshine today. Whoever brought that, thank you.
You're welcome. Shot from the ridge.
Okay, the first item of business is the public comments. So we have 2 minutes per speaker. Anyone who wishes to speak on any topic, whether it's on the agenda or not, please step to the microphone and state your name and address, and then the 2-minute clock will start on the screen.
So my name is Lance Klessig, and I work with Winona County Soil and Water Conservation District. And I'm here on behalf of Daryl Buck and also our Soil and Water local board. And we just wanted to say thank you for your action to support our Soil and Water budget request last week in the meeting. Much of our work that we do as a Soil and Water is with rural landowners and farmers, and this is a big action step for us to support them and when we're trying to help them. So with a down farm economy and the rains never seem to quit, it's really important for us to be able to help farmers who are transitioning through these times of profitability and water quality. So the handout that you guys I just passed out, we were blessed last week to have a mini house session here in Winona, and so that is the handout that we provided with them, and we were asked to highlight some of our local efforts using clean water funds. And it was a really great time at Farmers Park to talk about what we do, how we do things, but most importantly, the why behind it. So the people, the water, the soil resources that we're blessed with here in Winona County. And so we also shared with them a few of our YouTube videos that showcase, again, some of the farmers we're working with. And we just wanted to pass that along to you folks and say thanks for your support. And if you have any questions, you can talk to Daryl Buck or myself or any of our board members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak before the board? For the third and final time, is there anyone wishing to speak before the board on any issue? Okay, thank you. We close the public comment. I'd ask for a motion to approve the county board minutes of September 24th, 2019.
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Olson, to approve the county board minutes of September 24th, 2019. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the county board minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Thank you. And acknowledge receipt of approved committee minutes. We have the Planning Commission from August 15th, 2019, and the Extension Committee minutes from July 11th, 2019.
I
Those
move to
were at the fair.
approve 4.1 and 4.2.
Okay. We have a motion to acknowledge receipt of the minutes by Commissioner Jacobs, seconded by Commissioner Olson. Any further discussion? All those in favor of acknowledging receipt of the county board or the county committee minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Thank you. Okay, we're down to consent comments and approval of the agenda. So, Mr. Fritz?
I have nothing to add.
Commissioner Ward?
Nothing this time.
Commissioner Meyer?
I have board action to maybe bring up.
Okay. I have some announcements. And Commissioner Olson?
I'd like to pull 6.2 for a separate vote.
Okay, 6.2 from the consent business will now become 7.01. And Commissioner Jacob.
Nothing for me.
Okay, Attorney Sonneman.
Sorry, I'm late.
Not a problem. Too much sunshine.
An eagle and 3 wind.
The wind blades, yes, yes.
Huh? Transportation.
I almost got- Yes.
Yeah, I just have one announcement.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Fritz, you can read the consent business as modified with item 6.2 becoming 7.01.
Does that need, did you already make the approval of the
No.
Oh,
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
second?
okay, excuse me. We have a motion to approve the amended agendas by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Jacob. Any further discussion on the amended agenda? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay. And so the amended agenda is approved. Thank you. Now, can you read the consent comments,
I'll read the
please?
consent agenda into the
Consent
record.
business, yes.
Committee recommendations, 6.1, approve conditional use permit for Dwayne and Cindy Herber of USS Bluff County Solar LLC for a 1 megawatt community solar garden. 6.2 has been pulled and moved under general business. Department recommendations, 6.3, appoint member to Workforce Development Board. 6.4, approve resolution for fishing easement for Department of Natural Resources. 6.5, accept Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act grant award. 6.6, approve renewal of purchase of service agreement for intensive residential treatment services with Hiawatha Hall/Family and Children's Center. 6.7, approve renewal of purchase of service and host county contract with La Crosse Family and Children's Center for therapeutic foster care services. 6.8, authorize CASA 41 change order for soil stabilization. 6.9, approve renewal of natural resources block grant agreement for 2021. 6.10, approve resolution to adopt comprehensive local water management plan amendment. 6.11, review approved township notification procedure amendment, chapter 5, 5.5 and 5.6 of the zoning ordinance. 6.12, approve renewal of state of Minnesota off-highway vehicle safety enforcement grant for 2021. And 6.13, confirm payment of disbursements. That's the end of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Do we have a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as read?
I'll move.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Meyer, seconded by Commissioner Olson. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the consent business, of approving the consent business as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay, thank you. The consent business is approved. General business. 7.01 is actually the former 6.2, and it starts on page 39 if anyone's following in the agenda packet. This is approve the conditional use permit for Menno Yoder to allow dog kennel facility.
I'd ask for that to be just on a separate vote. I will not support that. I don't think dogs should be considered agricultural product.
Okay,
To approve 6.2 as presented.
And I'll second.
okay, we have a motion to approve the recommendation to approve the conditional use permit for Menno Yoder to allow a dog kennel facility made by Commissioner Jacobs, seconded by Commissioner Ward. So, do we have discussion on that motion? Commissioner Jacob.
Sure, we had, I sit on the Planning Commission, of course, and I believe both Commissioner Meyer and Commissioner Kvesi were in attendance of that meeting as well. The petitioner seeks to close the existing location that he already has an approval for, and he's moving from one township to another, and he wants to put a new state-of-the-art facility in the new location. In keeping with not singling anyone out and treating them differently than the population as a whole, we've approved numerous dog kennel facilities, you know, both Amish and non-Amish throughout the county. This would not follow suit with how we've treated everyone else, so I think they've certainly gone through all the steps to do the right thing and take the proper procedure, go through the proper procedure, so I think it's easy to support it.
Commissioner Meyer.
I was at the Planning Commission meeting. I do want to acknowledge that there was some significant concern on the part of residents who live in the area around the dog kennels. So I think that our zoning ordinance really, it fully allows the permitting of this facility, and so I am going to support it, but I do want to acknowledge that there was a lot of concern about the noise. And so when we get to our board action, then I have some requests that are really related to it. I think Commissioner Jacob is correct, that we have allowed this and that it is only really I think in our best interest to follow the letter of our zoning ordinance at this point. But I would personally like to have a discussion about some of the issues that were raised by the residents who were at that meeting.
Commissioner Ward.
Well, I think if you talk about our quote, land use planning and our zoning ordinance, it meets the letter that's there. And we talk about trying to allow these small acreages, small farms to exist. And this is a very good example of somebody diversifying their business plan to pay our taxes. Everybody that lives out there needs a cash flow, needs to be able to generate income to pay taxes. It used to be back in the day, you could just live on the land. You can't just live on the land. You have to live on the land and pay pay the taxes that go along with living on that land. And it's totally allowed by our zoning and it's, I think it falls into the philosophy of our land use comprehensive land plan. And as far as it being agriculture, I guess it is an ag natural resource conservation district, but I don't know, I guess the U.S. Department of Ag does the regulation, but I don't think it's considered, I guess in my mind, it's different than, animal agriculture. But that's a matter of interpretation. So yes, I think it is allowed.
Okay, Commissioner Jacob.
Some of the concerns at the Planning Commission, of course, one of the main ones being noise. I was contacted by a representative of the petitioner after the meeting, and they felt bad about the noise, and they felt a little blindsided that they haven't ever been approached. They certainly want to be good neighbors, want to fit into the community, and wanted to address the scenario of noise, and felt like they were kind of blindsided at the meeting that the neighbors came up and spoke to these problems that they had never been brought to their attention before, and they sounded willing to work with the community to fit in as good as they can. And I might also note that the petitioner has an existing facility, and that's inspected by the state and subject to inspections by law enforcement, and they're doing a good job up there.
Yeah, I agree with the discussion so far. I also was contacted by one of the representatives from the community, and they were very concerned about the noise discussions that came up, and also wanted to discuss or include the possibility of some optional, it's not required in our zoning laws, but I believe in the construction, there are intentions to do some sound mitigation as much as possible. Again, working to be good neighbors in the community. So I understand that could be a significant issue, but I do think it can be worked out on the neighbor-to-neighbor level, especially if there are some sound mitigation construction techniques. So it is allowed by our current zoning ordinance. So I do support the approval of this conditional use permit at this time. So any further discussion? Okay, so let's take a vote. We have a motion to approve the conditional use permit for Menno Yoder to allow a dog kennel facility. Motion made by Commissioner Jacob and seconded by Commissioner Ward. Is there any further discussion on this motion? Okay, all those in favor of approving the conditional use permit signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the motion carries 4-1. Thank you very much. Let's go on to general business item 7.1. which is on page 111. This is the update on the Regional Fraud Prevention Investigation Program efforts.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Rodney Barsh from Waukesha County and our regional detective, Nate Barker, here to present our annual report in regards to the success of the program, if you can call it that, recouping some of the overpayments that we've had. And it looks like a pretty comparable year. There is some additional monies that are going to be available from the state or from the feds. I'm not sure where the money's coming in from. And I think we may be looking at trying to restructure something differently next year. So when we come next year for the report, we might have a little different look to it. But we certainly are very interested and passionate in recouping and these costs and go off the system if they're going to try to defraud us. Any questions for you? Your amounts were down a little bit from last year?
There is a discrepancy if you have this graph. There is a discrepancy from the previous year's savings and overpayment numbers. That concerned me. I looked into that, and that was a clerical error. The year prior to that, numbers were almost nothing. So what had happened, the 2016, 2017 years, savings and overpayments got put onto the 2017, 2018 state fiscal year numbers. And that's that discrepancy. In coming years, I expect the graph to level out, and with exception to a large overpayment case or something like that, I expect it to level out and be more consistent in the years to come.
And our fourth detective in 6 years.
Correct. So I'm working on taking other strides to make sure there's not a fifth in the upcoming future. So, have any questions for me?
Commissioner Ward.
Yeah, so what's the number one issue in fraud?
Most of my fraud investigations, most of them result in unreported household members in the home, which typically results in their income not being claimed, resulting in, when it should, results in that's fraud. There's enough money in the household that they would not be eligible to receive some public assistance, and they intentionally leave that household member out or leave that income off to get benefits they're not eligible for.
Okay, all right. And then on one of the charts here, you have, of the 182 cases worked on, we disqualified 55 cases. This number is 9.4% of the 585 totally disqualified statewide. Now, to me, that 585 doesn't seem like a lot when you talk the state of Minnesota, but then you, above that, you say it's a $5.11 cost to benefit ratio. It doesn't seem like, I mean, not looking into the numbers and such, it seems like we're doing a lot of work, and if we believe that 511 cost benefit, but then there's only 585, so I guess that's the disqualified cases.
Correct, and that's not the, just those cases don't add up to the 461,000 overall. There's criminal element to it. If I believe that a case would be appropriate to be criminally referred, there's that option. The second option is to disqualify someone. Intentional fraud, there's a statute that says you may be disqualified for up to a year. Just the applicant. Quite typically, the rest of the family or the rest of the household, if they're still eligible, will remain to get those benefits that they need. But the fraudster, if you will, would be disqualified. The third option is adjusting their case, and they may not get disqualified, but would still owe some overpayments because of suspected fraud or proven fraud. So those, not every case results in a criminal referral or a disqualification. And that percentage, I can't tell you.
Okay. And then, so the last question, how many repeat offenders do we have? Is it common? I mean,
Yes, it's common within, I've been in this position for just over a year. And I'm starting to see a trend with certain families. Not necessarily repeat offenders. I've only been in this position for a year, and typically they're disqualified for a period of 1 year. So time will tell if I come across them again and have to investigate them for more fraud. But typically see that within the entire extended family is normal for me.
so it's a learned behavior to fraud the government.
In some cases, yes.
Okay.
I have a question too. So our information here is mostly just from 2018 and 19. Can you refresh my memory on, where have we been over the last 5 years with respect to fraud and abuse?
It's been fairly consistent in the past 5 years. Has been fairly consistent with the amount of savings and overpayments calculated at the end of the state fiscal year. They've been very consistent, with the exception to 5 years ago when the program was revamped, refreshed. There was a lot of fraud. And I think and then it kind of leveled out and planed out through current years.
So as of the fraud 5 years ago, it was actually, there was an improvement in catching the people that were violating, or was it a change in the kind of, I guess, evaluation of the numbers?
I think prior to the 5-6 years prior to that, there wasn't a deterrent there. There wasn't fraud wasn't getting investigated like it after that revamp period came. So those numbers skyrocketed as a result of that, and now have leveled out. And
So your work is being beneficial.
absolutely.
And our hope is that, I skipped a couple of years here, and some of it had to do with investigators and kind of switching right around that fiscal year in June, and so I dropped the ball in a couple of years, and we're going to try to stay consistent. So you see, we always want to see what's happened in the past, of course, so that we know how to do it in the future if it's worthwhile. So that's our hope, is this graph. We'll just keep building on this graph. But when we started, we were at $100,000 in type of savings, and so the program wasn't working then, and thankfully your director saw that. So.
Okay, we have a speaking order, Commissioner Ward and then Commissioner Olson.
Yeah, just a question. So a lot of these, these benefits or anything are for children in the family. But to be guilty of fraud, do you have to be 18?
Yes.
I mean, is it 18? Is 18 you're an adult?
Yes, so in order to apply and receive benefits, you have to be an adult.
And that's
If you have
18?
Correct. If you have, it all depends. Each program is different. There's a SNAP food benefit program, a cash MFIP medical assistance. Each program has its own rules. In some programs, you remain on your parent or guardian's case until you're 22. In some cases, it's 18. But in order to initially receive those benefits, you have to be an adult. If you have children under you on that case or siblings, that also happens.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Commissioner Olson.
As far as the recipients of these benefits, the fraud is a small percentage of overall?
Yes.
Very small?
Absolutely. It's a small percentage compared to the amount of dollars that are going out to help these families.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, thank you. We have again received a helpful update on the regional fraud program, so helps us put everything in perspective. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, item 7.2, the monthly finance and budget update for August 2019. Mr. Moga.
I'll be providing an August update. In the revenue fund, beginning cash started at 12.3. Revenues were 457,000. Actual expenses were 1.7. Ending cash is 10.9. For the whole year in the revenue fund, cash started out at the beginning of the year at 14.1. Revenue was 10.5. Actual expenses were 13.6, and ending cash was 10.9. The variance this year in the general fund compared to last year was 3.1 to 2.8. Looking at the very bottom with all the funds that are represented, which is 4 of the funds, is a positive 128 compared to a negative 2.2 last year. Part of that is the highway had some additional revenues that came in this year, later in the year for road projects. And the other thing that's also a positive thing is human services has been trending higher all year long. I did actually look yesterday at where we are through September, and we are 1.4 million negative in September compared to last year at about a 2.3, so almost $1 million difference. I also kind of looked at what would the taxes be that we haven't, that are going to be collected at the end of the year, but kind of looking at how much has been earned. And if you took those taxes against what actually the balance is right now, we'd be very close to a zero at the present time.
Great.
Not sure what's going to happen from now to the end of the year, but things are looking positive that we will, be very, I'm thinking close to budget, maybe a little bit that we'll have to transfer, but again, it all depends on what happens from now to the end of the year. And I also wanted to mention that it was a good team effort between finance and human services to collect this, because we need to work together in order for that to actually occur. And if that's really, it takes a while for that to kind of occur, and you're starting to see the results of that.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you have the number you've got compared to 1 year ago? Would you have the number compared to 2 years ago? Because
I could look that up and see where we were 2 years ago at the same time.
yeah, 'cause we've been making strides for more than 12 months.
Yep.
And yeah, I really appreciate the work being done. We want to do everything we can for the people who need the services, and we can be so much more efficient if we're addressing our collections at the same time.
Yeah, and I can look that up. Any more questions on this document? If not, I'll move to the summary. Beginning cash started at 18.6. Actual revenues were 29.8. Actual expenses were 29.7. Ending cash is 18.7. Variance is the 88 compared to the 2.2. Anything on this document? If not, I'll go to the summary budget. As of August, 67% is where we should be where the year is over. And if you look at all the items, the only item that is over that amount is in human services is at 73, but the revenues are also higher there also. So, and then the offsetting revenues are helping those areas. So things are looking positive on this document. The other item that is positive is the interest. We're actually over the amount of interest that we budgeted. Again, but this interest amount does not replicate what actually we had seen 10 years ago.
Yeah.
We refer to those as the good old days, Pat.
Yeah, we're down to the 236,000, but it actually is a positive thing to see even the 200, that we broke the 200 amount. Any questions on this document? If not, thank you.
Thank you very much for your hard work. Commissioner Ward.
To reiterate with what Commissioner Jacobs said, I think we owe a big thank you to Mr. Fritz. I've shared with other county commissioners, you know, it's not good, but one of the best things to happen is a major department head to leave. And then you have to reshuffle and you have to reorganize a little bit and you have to draw in people. Mr. Fritz is not a human service expert, but I think you asked a lot of the questions and looked at a lot of the processes that really helped us. So I want to say thank you. And I know Karen is working to continue that, because I've long said you need to run human services, you know, in a business model too. Yes, we need to take care of the vulnerable and the people who need the services, but we also need to look at the, you know, what we're doing for the taxpayers. And I think we owe Ken a big thank you for really looking at processes and systems and everything from a different lens. And I've shared this with other commissioners. You know, maybe we need to rotate department heads every so often, and they look at departments through a different lens. And I don't think that's all bad and such to have that interchange. So I want to thank you, Mr. Fritz.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I really do have to thank, because Karen's been instrumental, and and Pat both, you know, and then her team over there as well. So it really has been a group effort, and we've identified some things that hopefully in the future we can keep on, and then, you know, they should replicate themselves. So.
And I agree with you, Commissioner Ward, we do have to run human services like a business, and really taking our integrated business model for human services and implementing that within our human services model. We can't take care of our vulnerable if we can't generate the revenue, so that's why it's important.
Good.
Yeah, I agree with everything you're saying, Commissioner Ward. And internally in your department, there's a mindset of, you know, we provide services, and to go from we provide services to we provide services, and we have this other thing of having to collect the revenues. You know, that they're taking on a lot there. I mean, to understand both sides of the coin for both taxpayers and for the people who need service. So I appreciate the work being done in the department over there too, and Ken for your work internally. I'd say our reduction from close to 6% levy increase down to 4.3, that's got to be the biggest factor in bringing that number to a more manageable number than what it has been. So that's huge to the taxpayer and to the recipients or the people who need it. So.
Yes, it's been a lot of education with the staff, and a lot of education with Ken. I knew he was building 2 years ago. I'd be sitting in Ken's office having a conversation about continuity of care and social determinants of health. But he's done an excellent job educating himself on our business over there. And I agree. I think it's been beneficial for him to kind of sit in that director position to kind of see what you know. It's not just about the budget and just about the revenue. It is about caring for the people.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to prolong the discussion, but obviously the procedures needed to be reviewed and somewhat revised to make it more efficient. But I do have to give kudos to the staff that manage and face the people day to day. There's been a lot of stress over moving and construction and noise,
Yes.
And they've persevered. So that's. Well, and, you know, it just means that as a system, we are working, you know, down all the way through the system. And that's what pleases me, is that hopefully, you know, everyone is moving together through this and sees the value of it. So thank you very much, and your staff. So.
Yeah. Look, there's, to add to that, a lot of good things going on countywide, and you know, the media tends to pick up on when there's disagreement, but look at all the good. Look at all the good that's happening for the community, and this county functions at a high level. And all feel good about it.
Good. Let's go on to the announcements and the last pieces. Commissioner Meyer.
Yeah, so we'd like to have a board action. I'd like to have a conversation about asking our planning commission to look at the zoning ordinance with respect to dog kennels and potentially give us a little more options in terms of maybe imposing noise abatement or density of kennels in certain parts of the county.
Yeah, I would second this and look forward to that discussion because those are two particular items that came through very strongly. Okay, I have some announcements. First of all, I want to thank all the staff and citizens and commissioners and everybody who turned up to testify and to discuss issues with the recent House mini session. From my observations, it was very successful. The House learned some things, and I think we learned some things, which is always a win-win. At the very end, in terms of meeting with the Ways and Means Committee, some of the comments were very positive. The legislators picked up immediately or quite clearly that we work in coalitions down here and that we have some educated staff, educated citizens, and people who are willing to make commitments. So I appreciate that. They saw that about our community because I think that's really one of our strong points. So all in all, I thought it was a very worthwhile activity, and I sure hope they don't wait 30 years before coming back. I have an announcement. The SEMCAC Family Planning Office has moved to Sarnia Square, where the Hiawatha Valley Mental Health Services are. And SEMCAC is having an open house on the 24th of October from 4:30 to 6. So just keep that in mind if anybody's looking for what used to be over here on 3rd Street. Hiawatha Valley is also holding a hygiene drive this week, and so they're taking hygiene products. Any size, whether it's motel size samples, any shampoo, lotion, whatever, and they will use that throughout the coming year. And they're also working at 4 different locations this Thursday to participate in National Depression Screening Day, and that again is a coalition activity. They're working with Winona State University, they're working with the Friendship Center, they're working in just different locations through town, and they will also have staff available, so it's not like, oh gee, you failed the screening, see you, hope you're okay, whatever. So there will be follow-up if people need follow-up and need to talk to somebody. The last thing, there is a township officers dinner on Wednesday night, so they usually have a good program. So, and I know we usually give a good turnout. So, looking forward to seeing how the township officers dinner goes. Attorney Sonneman, you had an announcement.
Yes, I just wanted to announce that the 2019 Community Collaboration Summit this year that's sponsored by Winona County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, the County Alliance for Substance Abuse Prevention, and the Winona Area Public Schools collaboration at its finest. We're doing our summit this year on youth vaping, and topics covered will be what is vaping, why do we care, and what can we do. And that'll be October 24th from 6 to 8 at the Winona Middle School. It's a free event, and we've got a lot of great speakers who will explain the whole thing about e-cigarettes and what's in those. And I think it's a very timely topic given that what's going on nationwide as well as statewide. So again, it's a free event and it's open to everybody. And we're hoping to get a lot of teachers, parents, other school people, anybody who works with youth, particularly at the middle school and high school age. So.
Good. Thank you very much. One last thing, obviously I participated in the Women's Resource Center Prevent Domestic Violence Month. We painted the town purple last Friday. The mayor and I had a clap-off at the Island City Brewery, and everybody declared it a tie, imagine that. But if you see people with purple hair, I think it's better than wearing a purple bracelet or a purple ribbon. But please keep in mind that this month is National Prevention of Domestic and Sexual Violence. So we're all looking forward to not needing those operations anymore. But meanwhile, we're trying to prevent as much as we can.
I had one clarification too. Township officers, it's their annual banquet. It's not open to the public. It's not a public meeting.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. Yeah.
I don't want people to show up thinking it was their
I
normal
think
meeting.
you had to RSVP.
You
so
did
you
have to
had
RSVP. Yeah. I just wanted to highlight that it's going on in our community. So thank you very much. Take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Olson, seconded by Commissioner Jacob. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. We are adjourned.